And let's go over the deployment steps. First of all, I'm going to import the solution. Let's take a quick look at this solution. You can see here that we have a bunch of entities and option sets and processes that are used in our business process flows. Let's take a quick look at the room booking business process. Here you can see the BPF designer in action. You can see all of the stages that are defined in this process. We could take a look at the onboarding new employee process as well. When you import a solution, by default, you will notice that the BPF in question will be deactivated by default. So we want to be able to activate that. Same thing for the room booking process. Of course, you could do this from the designer as I just did here, or you could also go and do it from within the Power Automate portal. The next thing is to import the apps. So we're gonna start with the room booking process. As you can see, we're missing a couple of connectors. First of all, we have the CDS API connector. This is the custom connector that is used in the app to call the CDS API. And we also have the HTTP with Azure AD connector, which allows us from Flow to call our backend in CDS, the Common Data Service. So we'll start with that one. Here we're gonna create a new one since we don't have a connection yet. And we're gonna be directed to the connection creation screen. I'm going to pick the HTTP AD. Here you have two URLs that you will need to put in here. To get this base URL, you need to go to the admin center and note what is the org or the environment URL that you have. Here we have the org 02096A, but in your environment it will be different as well. We don't need a trailer backslash, so make sure you remove that, and then we do a create here. We'll authenticate here, and if we go back here and refresh this list, we should see that connector showing up. The next step is to go and create a custom connector that's going to be used in this app. For that, we can go to the custom connector tab. And now let's create a custom connector able to talk to the CDS APIs. For that, I'm going to import a Swagger file. First of all, let's give this a name. So the connector name will be CDS API. And I'm going to use the Swagger file that you should have in the package that you downloaded. This Swagger file contains all of the definition of the APIs that we're going to be using as part of our applications. I'm going to give this an icon. I'm also going to define the URL that's going to be used for every API calls that we're going to use in this project. So for that, I'm going to put the host name as the same environment URL that we obtained from the admin center. Next, we need to define our security parameters. Here, as a provider, we're using the Azure Active Directory, and we need to provide the client's ID and client secret for this. For this, usually you need to create an Azure Directory entry. Here you can go ahead and create a new one, a new app registration. However, I already created one that I'm using for this example. Here you note the client's ID. Let's go ahead and plug that in. For the client secret, you will define one as part of this process, and you can simply create a new client secret. You note that and you bring that back into your application here. Finally, the resource URL is simply the exact same URL that you used, that you looked at when you created the in the admin center here. And that's about it. Back to our app import here, we can simply now wire up the CDS API connector that we just created. And then finally do the import. Now that the app is imported, there are a few things that we need to do in order to set up the application and have it working properly. First of all, we imported a few flows here. We need to go take a quick look at those flows and then edit them so that they work with this environment. Looking at the flow portals here, we could check out the flows that we just imported here. There are a few of them right here. The first one we're gonna go and modify is this one. Here we're using this environment variable. It's still set to a different environment, so you need to make sure you add your own org environment here. And just do a save here. Same thing we're gonna do for the rest of the flows. So from the portal here, we can see the list of all of the flows used by the business process flow apps that we imported earlier. Here, we need to make sure that we are pointing to the correct environment. So for that, we need to set this variable to the correct environment name. And we do this for all of the remaining flows so that we are pointing to the correct CDS backend.